Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Game News Roundup where we go over the latest gaming news, gaming sales, which is the focus on today, gaming sales. I do apologize for this one actually being a little bit late. I should have thought about, I should probably record a video on this. PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan on his final day as PlayStation President and CEO on the PlayStation Podcast revealed that the PS2 had sold 160 million units lifetime. Now, he's clearly rounding. It's very unlikely it sold exactly 160 million. Whether he's rounding up or rounding down, hard to say for certain. But his direct quote, the 2000s, that would be, I would say, 160 million, which is the number of PS2s we sold, said Jim Ryan, when asked about 2000s and what was brought to his mind about the 2000s, was 160 million PS2 sold, and he called it a high watermark. Now, the last actual official figure reported by Sony Interactive Entertainment is, but we actually go right here, down here, cumulative worldwide hardware units selling being units shipped. The number of PS2 units shipped was at over 155 million units shipped. Specifically shipped, not sold, so they were still selling afterwards, as of March 31st, 2012. Sony did keep producing and shipping PS2s until it was either the end of 2012 or very beginning of January 2013. So we're talking about roughly another 9 months of PlayStation 2s being manufactured and shipped worldwide. So yeah, this number of 155 million with the available data, doing a little bit of math. The 155 million was clearly a low ball of where it actually ended up. And it actually was some math that a bunch of people have done. Sony actually reported PS2 shipped at 155.1 million units as of March 12th. All those years ago, you say 155 million, you could drop by 100,000. And then Sony reported PS3 shipped 63.9 million as of March 12th. And then Sony, after that, combined PS2 and PS3 sales together as computer entertainment system. And then PSP and PS Vita sales together as well. And then for the 2012 fiscal year, PS2 plus PS3 shipped 16.5 million. But Sony announced the PS3 had surpassed 80 million units sold on November 2nd, 2013. And then Sony reported PS3 shipped 1.1 million plus 2 million in quarter 2 and quarter 3 of 2013. Tally everything up, you get to 67 million. And PS3, which cannot have passed 80 million before November 2nd, 2013. Meaning PS3's maximum shipment lifetime today as of September 2013 must be less than 80 million. And then 79.9 million minus 67 million equals 12.9 million as the absolute most PS3 could have shipped in fiscal year 2012. So you take that 16.5 million of the PS3 and PS2 combined, you subtract it by that 12.9 maximum, and you get 3.6 million left over for PS2. And then obviously you take the 3.6 million, you add to the 155.1 million, you get 158.7 million minimum PS2 shipped lifetime, which obviously they will eventually have sold, within the next year or two or a few years after it has stopped being manufactured. So yeah, we're talking the minimum for the PS2 at 158.7 million. Obviously, if you want to take the 155 million exact, versus the 155.1 million that they had once said, then we're talking about 158.6 million at the bare minimum. And then the maximum for the PS2, we're talking like 161 to 162 million maximum shipped. So it's been known for many years that the PS2 was around 160 million. You could say, within 1.3 or 1.4 million under to up to 2 million above it. So around 160 million is not a big shock that Jim Ryan said that. The question is, what is the exact number? We don't know the exact number. Nintendo every quarter does update their shipment figures for their platforms, no matter how good or how poorly they're selling. Every quarter, we got Wii U sales, or shipment figures specifically, how many units have been shipped. Yeah. As you know, the Wii U, a bit of a bomb, a bit of a huge failure for Nintendo, but they still reported those numbers every quarter for the number of units shipped. So we know how many units the Switch has actually shipped, versus, obviously, in ship versus sold, there's always a bit of a difference between ship and sold until every unit is actually sold. Usually, when the best-selling consoles, usually there's like 2 to 3 million gap between shipped and sold. Roughly. Obviously, it depends. You know, when a console first comes out at the end of its lifespan, obviously the gap is a lot smaller. When a console first comes out, the demand is so high, usually just about every unit sells out, so the gap is well under 1 million. Obviously, towards the end of its lifespan, 1 million, and then obviously it shrinks as time. But during the peak years, we're usually talking 2 to 3 million difference. Obviously, it takes weeks, several weeks, maybe potentially over a month, depending on where in the world you're talking about shipping the consoles. And obviously, they're in warehouses for a while. They don't always sell out immediately, or they're sitting in store shelves for a bit. So a 2 to 3 million gap is generally what is usual during peak consoles. Obviously, earlier this current gen PS5 was so severely, the demand was so high, they couldn't produce enough units due to the shortages, that the gap between shipped and sold with the PS5 for a long time was around 1 million, or a little even less than 1 million for a long time. It was just the difference between how long it took to ship them, because they would be sold immediately, or within a matter of hours. And now, obviously, the PS5 is readily available. The gap is now up to 2 to 3 million, roughly. But yeah, again, of course, this is about the PS2 here of its potential numbers. 158.7 million, or you can say 158.6 million, bare minimum for the PS2 units shipped. Obviously, they will eventually have sold to about 160 to 162 million, depending on the different math here of what is the PS3 or not. So yeah, that is the bare minimum. So Jim Ryan saying 160 million is not a surprise. The question is he rounding up just that little bit to go to 160 million, or is he actually rounding down that 1 to 2 million potentially to say 160 million? This is obviously on a podcast. It's not a full official statement or anything. I would love for Sony to come out and update this number. Release a statement. This is exactly how many units we shipped of the PS2. Or at least within the nearest 100,000. Doesn't have to be to the exact unit number, because you see all of this is within the nearest 100,000. But yeah, these numbers down here are units shipped, but obviously at this point, it is all units sold, other than PS5, because it's still being sold here. Otherwise, yeah. So yeah, PS1, 102.4 million. PS2, 155 million was the last official number. But yeah, it's within a couple million of 160 million. And then PSP, interesting enough about this, you chuck this at anything? Yeah, I don't know. It's Jim Ryan on his very last day running PlayStation. He literally retired. New guy took over April 1st. This was his last official day because it was the weekend after that. Absolutely out of nowhere, we're just like, what just happened? But yeah, interesting enough about the PSP is actually, it was above. It sold well more than 76.4 million. That was the last update we got for the PSP, because they did combine the PSP and PS Vita for a while. Of course, they won't disclose how much the PS Vita sold, because it sold roughly like as barely as the Wii U. So they're like, yeah, you know, we're not going to disclose it. Yeah, we know it bombed, but we're not going to tell you exactly how much it bombed. But yeah, the PSP was actually well over 76.4 million. Sean Layden, previous PlayStation CEO, did release a photo of his PSP he had, of the exact number of PSPs produced. Absolute insanity that he released that. I don't have the... I'm trying to think. Do I have... Yeah, I don't think I actually have the image off the top of my head. But we updated our estimates on VG charts here to match exactly the units that the PSP still had. And like, all right, number of units produced, these dates, boom, exact number, which is actually 82.52 million, and then some. It was literally down to like single-digit unit, which we've never had that revealed before. So the 82.52 million unit actually for the PSP was revealed by Sean Layden. If you want to look up on his Twitter account, you should be able to find that image, or you do a Google search. Hopefully, you can find it. But versus their PSP of more than 76.4 million. Yeah, 82.52 million. 76.4 million. Do the math. That is a huge difference. It's not even close. That's actually probably further off than what they say for the PS2, which currently we still have the PS2 at the bare minimum of where it actually can be at 158.7 million units. Lifetime, the bare minimum, because obviously Jim Ryan's statement is rounding, and not everyone trusts Jim Ryan's previous statements and stuff. Even a lot of PlayStation fans weren't a big fan of him, and they said, "Oh, you really trust him?" They're just moving, and then people saying they're moving the goalpost because they don't want Nintendo to switch. I'm like, I just want an official statement from Sony. Whatever the official, if we ever get an official final number from Sony, we will update our numbers. based on official final numbers. We always update to match or to adjust our numbers when more data becomes available. Obviously, any current thing, we have units sold. Like the Switch, we have its number of units we have sold currently through February, which we have the latest data through. And then obviously eventually we'll catch up, and then once all the units are sold, we'll make sure our lifetime sales match the number of units shipped. As long as that data is available. Microsoft not releasing any actual data for Xbox anytime recently. That's great. 360. Well, the last available number was like 2 or 3 years before it was finally discontinued. It was 84 point something million. I forget the exact number, and they still haven't given us a final number. It's possible we were underestimating the 360. It sold more than the PS3, or maybe we've overestimated slightly. It's a little bit lower. This is just what we have based on available data. The biggest question mark for us is some markets like Asia. We get very little data available from Asia, and then we have to extrapolate to try to get as accurate as possible. And as more data comes in, then the algorithms change a bit and try to get things as accurate as possible as time goes on. But yeah, best-selling consoles of all time. And if you're curious, Xbox One actually was about 58 million lifetime based on a presentation in Brazil from Xbox themselves. An image got online, like, wait, what? And the Xbox One was about at 58 million or so, plus or minus a little bit for the Xbox One. Also revealed that the Xbox Series X and S at the time, this was in the middle of June of last year, was over 21 million. And then obviously through the rest of the beginning of this year, we currently have estimates of the Series S and X at just over 28 million lifetime, based on the available data we have to us. And again, as more data becomes available, adjustments do occur. So yeah, best-selling consoles of all time. And you can see PS2. I hope before the Switch catches up, we get an official statement from Sony of the PS2's actual final number. Although we won't know exactly when the Switch officially will actually have outsold the PS2, become the best-selling video game platform of all time, if it can reach that point. Mind you, it's still selling really well for how old it is. It is, think about it. It is over 7 years old at this point, and everything is pointing to the successor to the Switch not coming out until probably next March or April, which will be 8 years of the Switch. So another year of just the Switch on the market, probably another 10 plus million units sold, and then obviously you think about the difference between shipped and sold. It should be at like 150 million. I wouldn't be surprised by the time the Switch 2 or the Switch, whatever they call it, comes out, over 150 million. And then we're talking about, Sony's number here of over 155 million, 5 million away, or Jim Ryan's 160 million, 10 million away, might be a little over 160 million. Obviously, once the Switch gets to 160, if it gets to 162, 163 million, yeah, then sure, definitely the Switch is 100% the best-selling platform of all time. There'll just be that the ambiguity of like, when? Has it sold more? Has it not? Until it gets to a certain point. I mean, in the end, does it really matter? No, I like numbers. I keep an eye on, out of curiosity, the box office charts, which, we get really good data from the box office, the movie box office every single week worldwide. But, anyways. So, yeah. PlayStation 2, Jim Ryan saying the PS2 sold 160 million units lifetime again. He's clearly rounding. We just don't know if he's rounding up a little bit or rounding down a little bit. It's definitely within a million or two, one way or the other. It's really close. I just wish we would get an official update from Sony of how much it sold. Again, as I mentioned, Nintendo gives us quarterly shipment figures every single quarter, no matter how well or how poorly something is selling. And then Microsoft, well, we got lucky with that one image of knowing how much the Xbox One actually sold and where the Series X and S was in the middle of June last year. So, yeah, otherwise you get nothing about actual sales specifically from Microsoft. It's just the available data we get from specific trackers from around the world, about data we get from ourselves, and they extrapolate to get worldwide estimates. And then, obviously, with the quarterly shipment figures, we do any adjustments necessary. So yeah, what do you think? Do you believe Jim Ryan that the PlayStation 2 sold about 160 million lifetime? Or do you think that its actual final total is more than, is 155 million? Or do you think it's over 160 million, he's just rounding down, or whatnot? Again, I just want an official number. Hopefully soon, now that Jim Ryan made this statement, or maybe Sean Layden will come out like, oh yeah, here's my final PS2, here's the actual numbers units sold, but still waiting on something like that from someone who would know exactly to get the exact number. But Anyways, I just thought I would mention this. If you enjoyed this video, as always, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button if you want to watch these live. Twitch.tv/TrunksWD is where I record these videos live, as well as playing games. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time.